Hi everybody, welcome back for another video. Is this enough power for you? Do you want to be able to crack a coconut like that? This is one of the fresh green ones right off a tree. If so, you don't really need a lot of power upgrades. This is stock TCP, just tuned up a little bit, but nothing fancy. We often forget the power and what a stock launcher can do. We tend to get caught up in the need or the desire to modify. I just want to mention today that it's possible that you may not want to do that. You may want to get it stock, you may want to tune it up, but you may not want to really do lots of other modifications, and that's not a bad thing. The video I'm going to show you today is me shooting on my stock TCP with 2 turns from the stock setting back in 2020 when I first got it. I was doing some shooting, and I can show you that it's very consistent. I don't know why, but over time, in some cases, when you have it powered a little lower and there's a lot of extra air, I found that it drifted upwards over time instead of going down with each shot. It actually would be relatively steady, but then it would have a little spike at some point, and I don't completely understand why, but I think it builds pressure at some point. But it's relatively consistent across the mag. That's one advantage. You can switch between powder and pepper. You could alternate them in your mag, so you have that potential. And it has a pretty good punch. It's nothing like when we tune them up to 40, 50 joules, but shooting, I think we underestimate shooting at 20-ish joules, and I think that's in many cases more than sufficient for our less lethal applications. I think what happens is we get caught up into thinking, well, what if? And I think that's just human nature. We tend to think that way. We don't want to be outgunned. But you got to realize with less lethal, you're not necessarily taking on something that should be outgunning you. You should be using appropriate force for the situation. So that's my way of thinking about this. And you can see how at the beginning of this video, how it punched into a coconut. This was a green coconut fresh off a tree shot in Florida back in 2020. And it punctured through the outer layer, went into the coconut, and I had to dissect it out with a knife in order to get it out. So it was not, this was not one of those dry grocery store coconuts that fractures. This was very tough, and it punctured, and it actually still embedded inside that coconut. So these things can shoot very hot, and you got to also remember that if you have a lower setting and you're in a hot environment, especially in the summer, or if you live in a hot climate, they're going to tend to shoot hotter. What you think is that in the 800, 850 range for your CO2, if you're outside and you're in the heat, it can easily go 900 plus. So you just got to keep all of these things in mind. If you've got this thing maxed out and then you go outside and your CO2 is even hotter, you run more of a risk of having errors or malfunctions. And so there is a lot to be said for keeping it at a low, safe factory, level, and or maybe tuning it up a little from there. But there's a big gap between there and maxed out completely. And do you really need to bridge that gap? That's your personal choice. I just want to at least remind everybody that it's an option, that you don't have to do that. And if you want to save and you want to be budget friendly, and you want your TCP or your FSC for true less lethal, then this is an option. Once we start going up and maxing these things out, I truly think we're getting close to that line, going into what could be a lethal shot, especially if it was in the head. And so just something to think about as you watch some of my shooting from back in 2020. I'm going to try to chrono it. I just went another half turn. It's 2 turns, and I'm just going to do them slowly. So I'm just going to do the first one here just to see. Hopefully we don't, but you never know. It's good. No leak. I'm going to shoot the plastic and see if that works any better. Okay, first shot. Right down the middle. Wow, that hit hard. 241. 243. Okay. 2 more shots. 298. Too high. 267. So the thing is shooting hot, that's for sure. And that should be all. So you can see right here, this was 3-ply wax paper, very thick. I could not even punch my thumb through this, but those Joules just went right through with ease, even with this setting. So that's quite a bit of punch as far as I'm concerned. So I decided to chrono again one more time to do another batch. I just need to get 7 shots chronoed and try to do it accurately. I don't know why. I know if I take time in between, it seems like the FPS is higher. And it also seems like it increases over time. I just want to try to get an average number for this 2 turns and then see what I can do. Also make sure everything's working reliably. So I'm charging. Sealed up good, no leak. It's good. Okay. Okay, safety's off. I'm trying to hit the target, but main thing is just to get it inside the box. All right, first shot. 239. Second shot. 236. 224. 238, 240, 267, 237. That's it, 237. Okay, I'll bring it back inside. The first 2 shots were done in the garage. It was just too loud. I got 4 more inert rounds in here. I'm going to shoot them steadily. I'm not going to do it rapid fire, but I'm going to do it steadily, and I'm going to get the readings so I'll know the FPS on these, and hopefully not make too much of a mess. I'll clean up whatever the mess is. It's much better to do it here. It was just too loud in the garage, and I'm sure it's loud here too. Okay. First shot of the last 4. 329, 329, 342, 304, and that's it. All right, so there you have it, the one essential upgrade for your TCP. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure I told you what it was. What could it be? Extended magazine with extra shots, 12 grams CO2. Is it an upgraded barrel? Is it upgraded internals? I think I tried to make the case in this video that stock, you don't need any of these. You can run 8 grams CO2, everything stock, just by turning the velocity screw up 2 turns. And you have sufficient power to crack a coconut, to shoot through wax paper, and have significant power while at the same time not breaking pepper balls. So maybe we're overlooking the simplicity of the fact that this thing as stock, as a budget launcher without any additional upgrades, is more than sufficient for our less lethal needs. I think more likely what is happening is people are not satisfied with less lethal. But I basically maintain that less lethal is what we want. That's our goal. We want it less lethal. That's what I want. And so the one only major upgrade that I would do on mine, and this is what I've done, and you can see my parts kits here. I have the First Strike parts kit. I got the VKS parts kit. Out of all the parts that are available, the one thing that I suggest that everybody upgrade is their O-rings. The stock O-rings that come in your Pepperball launcher, your First Strike FSC, these are, they're clear. They're made out of a material that is very flimsy. This is the what's called the heat core O-ring and the firing bolt. I suggest everybody upgrade to something like this, which is the one from Grimburg. You can see that it's just a more solid, it's a more squarey, it fits really well into the air chamber. And compared to this one, which has got a lot of play to it, is very flimsy, this one is definitely a higher durometer. It's definitely a stronger O-ring. And I've had one of these in my TCP and one in my VKS for about 2 years at this point. 2 years on my TCP, and I've had one in my VKS for probably 1.5 years right now. I've never blown one. These things are just great, and I haven't had any troubles. Now, another thing that I recommend is upgrade all of your other O-rings with the Flask paintball set from Flask Paintball. And that's the one that I have here for the T8.1, 9.1, FSC. These all fit in your Pepperball launchers. They have great ones that are Buna 70 durometer, and these are the kind that I use. They're a lot better. They're color-coded, and it's easy to know which one goes where based on the color coding. And they even have their own heat core O-ring that I think, personally, I have never tried it, but I think it would hold up quite well versus the Grimburg O-ring or even the Milsig O-ring, which was the original one that everyone started using. So you have options. I think these are really cheap, but these are very strong, and I would say they feel just as strong as the one from Grimburg. But at this point, I still consider this the gold standard for that. But this is a great set of O-rings. They're not very expensive, and that's what I recommend. And to me, upgrading your O-rings would be the one thing